All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for signing up for today's webinar. My name is Emily, and I am on the customer care team here at Lattice. Today, I'm going to do a high-level overview of how to set up a review cycle in Lattice. For today's agenda, I am first going to start by showing you how to set up a review template. From there, I'm going to go into Lattice's question bank and then show you how to set up scored attributes. Once we have gone over some of the setup before creating the review cycle, I will show you how to set up your review cycle. After I've walked you through the setup, I will open this up to Q&A if any of you have any clarifying questions. So there are a few things to consider prior to creating a review cycle. The first is determining the cadence. If you run your review cycles on an annual basis, you may want to run a full 360 review. If you run your reviews biannually, you may want to just do a manager and employee review, or maybe you just want to do a self and peer review. This is all super customizable in Lattice to best fit your organization. Creating short templates may aid you in a higher response rate. Excuse me. Also, limiting your questions within your template will increase the detail in your employees' review responses. If you are not sure if you would like to do internal scoring for your employees, you can always skip this step when creating a review cycle. I'll go into this in more detail when we dive into the tool. Typically, each review takes about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the type and number of questions within a template. Make sure that your employees have plenty of time to finish their reviews. We typically recommend giving your organization about 2 weeks to complete the review. You will also want to train and prepare your managers and employees on what to expect for their review. Especially if it's their first performance review, they might not know how to approach performance reviews overall. Having clear expectations from what you want from your reviewers and managers will help facilitate your review cycle's participation rates. Lastly, employees want to grow. Encouraging your employees to set and review actionable goals will aid your employees in seeing how they have performed to their own expectations. It will also help managers understand what their direct reports are working towards. I have also attached some additional best practice guides and help center articles that I believe are great resources to refer to while creating and administering your review cycle. I will send all of this out for you to come back to. All right, let's dive into the tool. So right now I am logged in as Joseph Stone, and you can see that he is an admin because he has this admin tab. So first I'm going to walk you through how to create a question within the question bank. First, start by navigating to your admin panel, click into reviews, and then click on questions in the drop-down menu. When you create a question in the question bank, you can come back to it in your questions and use it for other review cycles. You can also see here in this recommended tab that there are some review questions that are already pre-populated in Lattice. These are really great to use if this is your first review cycle and you are unsure of what questions to ask. You also have the option to create your own review question by toggling over to your questions and clicking on Create Question. From here, you will want to add in your question. Let's say I want to ask, what is one thing that you can improve on next quarter? If you would like to add an additional description to your question, that option is there for you, but it is not required. Next, you will want to choose the type of response for your question. You can choose a rating question, which is more of a Likert type scale, a multiple choice question, or a multiple select question. If you would like to edit the content of these responses, all you will need to do is click into the response that you would like to edit and make any necessary changes. You can remove these types of questions, or if you wanted to add more, you can simply do that by clicking on Add Another Rating. You can also add a comment-based response as well. If you would like for your employee to provide any additional context to a ratings, multiple choice, or multiple select response, you can make this comments response optional by checking off this optional box. You can also make the ratings, multiple choice, or multiple select response optional if that best suits your review question. The last step in creating a review question is to determine the visibility setting. If you would like for this question to be a private question, you can check off this box here. Responses to private questions are only viewable to admins and the reviewee's manager. You may want to make a question private if you wanted to ask employees if another employee is eligible for a raise. This is something you might only want the manager to see. Once this question looks good, go ahead and click Save. And once you save this question, it'll automatically populate in the question bank for future use in the Your Questions tab in the Reviews drop-down menu. Once you have added any questions you would like to within the question bank, you can go ahead and create your review template. Review templates set up what you would like to ask each review group. Start by navigating to your admin panel and then click on Templates in the Reviews drop-down menu. You can either create your own template, or Lattice has some default templates already set up for you. You can view these default templates by clicking on them here, and a panel will pop up on the right-hand side showing you what kinds of questions are asked within this template. To create your own template, click on Create New Template. First, let's give our template a name. Let's say I wanted to review managers for this quarter. I would want to make this name for the template as specific as possible so I can refer back to it when creating my review cycle. So let's title this template Q3 Manager Review 2019. You can also optionally add instructions, or you can add a tag. Tags are a great way to organize and group your template. When drafting your template, the question bank will emerge on the left-hand side. If you aren't sure of what kinds of questions you would like to ask your employees, you're able to consult our stock questions in the Recommended tab. If one of these questions looks good, click on Add to Template, and that review question will pop up in your template. Let's add on a few right now. You can also add on your own questions as well. If you want to create a question within your review template, that option is available to you too. Once you create a question in your review template, it will automatically pop up in the question bank for future use. The last part to configure in the template is to select goals that you would like to pull in. You can choose to pull in currently active goals or recently ended goals with a time frame of your choosing up to 52 weeks after you launch your review cycle. Let's do 16 weeks. From here, you can then ask a question that pertains to your employees' actionable goals. Let's ask, to what extent did you accomplish your goals this quarter? And let's make it a rating response. Once this looks good, go ahead and click Save. If this template looks good, you can go ahead and click Create Template. And that template will populate in your templates in your admin panel. Next, I'm going to show you how to set up scored attributes. Scored attributes are filled out by managers and are an easy way to evaluate employees on the qualities that your company values the most. You may want to use scored attributes in your review cycle if you wanted to include something like competencies. To create a scored attribute, navigate to Scored Attributes within your admin panel. As you can see, there are a few scored attributes pre-populated in Lattice, but if you want to create your own, click on Create New Attribute. From here, add the title of your scored attribute. Let's do Hustle. Once you have added your title, you can optionally add a description. Lattice defaults the ratings from 1 to 5, but if you would like to add more or edit this text, you have the option to change this in the same way that you added on a review question in the question bank. If your company does not use scored attributes, feel free to skip this step. So now we have created questions in the question bank, a review template, and scored attributes. So now we can go ahead and create our review cycle. You'll first want to start, again, by navigating to your admin panel and clicking into Auditing in the Reviews drop-down menu. From there, click on Create New Cycle. The first thing you will want to do is create a name for your review cycle. Let's do 2019 Q3 quarterly review. Then you will want to select the review type. The org chart review, which is Lattice's default, will pull in information from the org chart and reporting relationships that you have already set up in Lattice. A project-based review is a review cycle that assesses performance within a particular project unit. This is really useful for employees that spend a large amount of time working in project teams, such as within an advertising agency. Today, I'm going to walk you through this org chart review. Once you have created your review title and type, you will then be guided to the reviewee stage. Reviewees are employees that will be receiving a review in Lattice, rather. You can either select all employees as reviewees or select specific employees. If you select specific employees, you can organize this by org chart, department, or individuals. You may want to only include specific employees in your review cycle if you only wanted to review one employee or just one department. You also have the option to upload reviewees from a CSV file. For right now, I'm just going to make this review available to all employees. Next, you're going to be taken to the step to select your reviewers. So reviewers are going to be employees that will be writing reviews. From here, you can choose the type of reviewer you want, and you can add in those templates for each specific type of review. This is also entirely customizable to how you would like to conduct your review. You can either use the same set of questions for everyone or choose different ones. This is completely up to you. If you are using pre-populated templates in Lattice, we'd recommend using the Look Back and Outlook template for self-reviews, the Upward Review template for upward reviews or direct report reviews, and the Stop, Start, and Continue template for peer feedback. You can also use your own templates as well and filter out your templates by any tags that you have created. You can also preview your template to make sure everything looks good by clicking on Preview. For the manager or downward feedback, you have a few options. The first is to have managers write a summary. Manager summaries are completed after the review cycle has been closed. Before managers share their review packet, they can use the summary to write any final remarks to their direct reports before sharing their review packet. The second option is to have a manager fill out a review template. This is done while the review cycle is active. It'll consist of a template that you have selected. And this last option is to have a manager fill out both a review template and a summary. So this means that your managers will be required to fill out a review template when the cycle is active and a summary after the review cycle has closed. I am going to go ahead and choose the option to have managers do both and use the template that we had created. Once this looks good, we can go ahead and move on to your review settings. If you have chosen the option for peer reviews, you will be prompted to choose who selects the peers to be reviewed. So you have two options here. One is to have managers select peers for their direct reports, and the other is to have reviewees nominate their own peers and submit for manager approval. I am going to select the option to have reviewees nominate their own peers. From here, you will want to choose the advanced options for the peer selection process. During the peer selection process, if you would like for managers or employees to nominate a specific number of reviewers, select this option here. We think that it's best practice to limit the number of peer nominations to 2 to 3 peers to avoid a heavy workload of peer evaluations. There are also options for those who are nominated as peers to decline an approved peer review, nominate themselves as reviewers, or view the self-reviews of the peers that they are reviewing while completing their reviews. During the peer selection phase of the review cycle, employees are not able to fill out their reviews yet. This last option right here allows employees to draft their review responses that are independent of peer reviews during peer selection. This ordering section allows you to dictate the order in which managers should complete their reviews on their direct reports. Managers can either write their reviews after their direct reports have submitted their reviews, or they can write them at the same time as their direct reports. This visibility box allows managers to view all reviews submitted about their direct reports as they are writing their downward feedback. This may provide some useful context for managers as they write their reviews for their direct reports. If you are using scored attributes as a company, this is where you will want to toggle that on. Once you turn on scoring, you will have the ability to input your scored attributes that you have created. Let's do performance and leadership. This calibration step is an extra step within the scoring stage of the review cycle. It allows you to export scores, make any changes outside of Lattice, and re-upload them into the system. This is a really useful tool if you want to discuss scored attributes after submission and tweak an employee's scores. If you choose not to calibrate, you do not have to add this step. If some of your attributes hold more weight than others, you might want to turn on weighted scoring as well. Similar to calibration, weighted scoring is done outside of Lattice after the review cycle in a CSV file. Once you hit save and continue, you will then be taken to the deliverables step of the review cycle. These settings are going to dictate what each reviewee sees when they receive their review packet. Note that after the review cycle is closed, nothing is shared yet with an employee until that employee's manager releases the report. For the manager review, you can choose whether their direct report sees both the review template and summary, or only the manager summary. You then have 3 options for visibility into the review submitted by peers and direct reports. The first is to share all feedback with the reviewers' names attached. The next is to share all feedback but with names anonymized. And the last option is to share all feedback with the reviewee's manager. If you choose this option, only the manager will have visibility into reviews submitted by peers and direct reports. I'm going to choose the option to share all feedback with reviewers' names attached. This control setting gives managers the option to control the pace of the review cycle and end the review cycle for their direct reports. If you do not choose this option, you as an admin will manually move your org through the review cycle at once. If you have not yet set this expectation for your manager, I would recommend maintaining admin control. The last deliverable setting is visibility into your scored attributes, if you have turned scoring on. You can toggle off scored attributes so they are not shared with direct reports, or you can customize which scored attributes will be shared. Once everything looks good, we can move on to the review timeline. You can either run your cycle manually or on an automated timeline. In an automated timeline, you can choose due dates in advance for each stage of the review cycle and draft notification emails for this stage. In a custom sequence, you as the admin will move everyone through each stage of the review cycle manually. If this is your first review cycle in Lattice, I would recommend starting off with this custom sequence. Once you have set up your review timeline to your liking, you will then be taken to this data check stage. This gives visibility into potential problems before you launch your review cycle. Some of these missing values may have been intentionally set when you have set up your org chart. For example, your CEO may not have a manager. Since this was set in place when you set up your org chart, this data check is just letting you know that your CEO will not receive downward feedback from a manager. If this looks good, hit save and continue, and then confirm. And you will be taken to this verify stage, which will allow you to double check all of the review settings that you have set. If everything has been set up to your liking, then go ahead and create your review cycle. Note that creating a review cycle will not launch the review cycle. It moves the cycle into this pre-launch stage. To begin your review, you as the admin will want to click into this cycle and explicitly set it live if you are on that custom sequence. So thank you all for joining me as I walked you through how to set up a review cycle in Lattice. I am now going to open this up to any Q&A if you have any clarifying questions. So one question is if can you change the review template after they have been attached to a review cycle? So the answer is yes. Once a review cycle is live, you'll be able to change out the templates by clicking into settings right here, going into templates, and then you'll be able to change your template here. If you have employees that have already submitted templates, the former template, then they will receive an email to let them know that you as the admin have changed their templates with the attached document of their submitted review from the former template. This is another great question. So for the question is for peer selection, what happens if a peer declines the review? So when the peer declines a review, the manager of the review E will receive an email that that peer has declined writing a review for them. And so this will give the manager a chance to go in and add on another reviewer for their direct report. Also, within your review cycle, you can see which people have declined peer selection by clicking into reviewees here. I'm going to go into another review cycle actually. By clicking into reviews, going into reviewees, and any peer that has declined a peer review will say declined right here. So it looks like we have no further questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to look at our help center at help.lattice.com or contact us through our in-app chat support in this chat bubble right here.